I made another original species, and this one is open with some closed options. You can check them out at bit.ly/Saurions, but let's not waste any time and get right into it. Origin. A long time ago on the planet you're standing on, but like in an alternate universe or something like that, sometime during the late Cretaceous period, there were giants who roamed the planet and ate plants and fruit. And there were little ones who hunted and devoured fuzzy little animals and ate their flesh, and yet more meat-eaters who were large, as big as the other giants, and would eat the other giants too. Towards the end of this era, the giants saw a flash in the sky, as a large burning rock flew down from the sky and crashed far off in the horizon. All that could be seen of the rock was the bright orange its impact left on the horizon, like a second sunset. As the glow began to dissipate, a great wind blew over the small island the giants watched from. The giants didn't know it, but they were incredibly lucky. But how could they know just how lucky they were? They were like animals and lived the rest of their lives as such. They continued to eat, sleep, reproduce, as animals do, and as generations came and went, the island began to shrink, growing smaller and smaller as the water levels rose and consumed the land the giants lived on. With the land shrinking by generation, so did the giants. They had to change their diets and diversify to survive. They relied more on vegetation. Over the millions of years, they adapted further, the first being the plant eaters. As they got smaller, they needed new and creative ways to reach their food. It was easy for them to reach their fruit in the trees when they were smaller than them, so the giants now stood on their hind legs and grabbed the fruit from the trees. As they shrunk further, they made tools to get their fruit, and they shared this knowledge with the meat eaters, and they shared their world, where they grew and lived together. After that, it was much like the other races of Terra. We discovered fire, ate meat again, but never each other. We made art, language, stories. Then one day, gifts from the ocean washed up on the shore, boxes made of wood and bound with metal, and filled with everything one could imagine. Clothing, food, spices, toys, and when we learned how to reproduce what was sent to us, we made our own technology. It was also through these crates that we discovered images and videos, and that showed us that there is a much larger world over that horizon, and with our land shrinking, we knew it was time to leave. We never considered it before. We knew about your existence, at least. We never considered it. We had everything we needed, but we knew what was happening. We couldn't stay here forever. Around the time we started getting the crates, the water levels started rising exponentially. One day our island would be submerged, and we could stay and drown, or move on. We gave up our homes. Our families got on boats and left in every direction the boxes came from. Some found land and continued living their simple lifestyles, staying out of cities, living off the land. Some made homes out of caves and abandoned towns, and the rest of us moved in and integrated with the rest of the races of Terra. We are those giants, and our island, the Isle of Giants, was our home. Don't let our short size fool you, though. We really thought we were the only ones who lived on this planet. Before we get into subtypes, I wanted to say happy birthday to my channel. It's been 1 year since I made the channel, and to celebrate that, I made a special merch drop. I've opened up pre-orders on my super cool keychain idea that I had last year. Here it is. It's a two-parter keychain with one UFO up top and me floating dangerously being abducted by my own ship. Here's a similar one from Rogue Race, the place I'm ordering from. It'll be a little similar to this, but with my art on it. As a bonus, the first 20 sold are going to be Star Sparklies, and will include a signed tarot card from me. It will have the full art the keychain is from, and signed. It's very cool, and super limited, so make sure to pre-order while you can. I've already sold 8, so there are less every day. By the time this video comes out, it might be even less. As a bonus, if this does well, I'll commission art for more merch, and we can get you some other cool merch, like dockies, 3D mouse pads, or collectible art cards. Anyway, this is my species, so my ad is the only one, and let's get back to it. Saurians and Saurian subtypes. What a cute little intro. Couldn't have made a better one myself, and I would know, because I made that one myself. Before we get into a buttload of lore and stuff like that, I'll be going over all the subtypes. My plan with this species was to help make some lesser used dinosaur species, and make them furry in order to help people visualize more what they could look like, kind of like what Chimerion did with chameleons. So any of the future subtype releases, I plan to make them open as long as interest is shown, and the best way you can show interest is to join the Discord and make Saurians and share them with me and your friends. The more fans and support the species gets, the more I can work on and expand the species. You'll want to join the Discord if you're the artsy type too, as I host contests regularly with winners getting MYOs to closed variants. Saurion. All Saurian are the result of convergent evolution, where they evolved from their original dinosaur-like bodies down to the smaller humanoid form. If you're familiar with carcinization, the process of sea creatures evolving to become more crab-like, because the success that form allows, it's similar to that. With limited landmass, the humanoid form is far more successful, allowing for tool use and creation, more food sources and opportunities, as well as ease of reproduction. But each Saurian subtype is tied to an ancestor that they inherit their various appearances from. In the case of Saurions, they are related to Triceratops and related families. This makes them easily identifiable by their nose horn and 2 supraorbital horns, but due to the shrinking of subsequent generations, most have dropped the helm typical of Triceratops. Sera are known for being slow-moving, patient, and friendly, with a tendency to hang out in large groups. This preference for large groups has turned into a dependency on group life. This dependency on living in groups may have contributed to the loss of their helms, making it easier for them to squeeze in close. Instead, Sera have developed horn nubs on their cheeks. Personality-wise, they range from moody, cold, serious, or total gremlins, until they get to know you. They have this presence that makes you think that they're independent, but are actually very nice, and kinda need you. They're kind of like house cats. Because of their social dependency, it's common for Seras to be polyamorous, taking on multiple partners at once. The most common pairing for them is 3 to 5, who are all dating or are weirdly close friends that you might think are dating if you didn't know any better. They are, however, capable of being alone for short periods of time in private, but in public settings, they'll panic if left alone. This is a holdover from their herd lifestyles. When multiple Sera are close, you'll see them huddled together like a clique, hanging out with just each other, playing, and essentially they feel like they're the only people around and ignore everyone else. This can lead to minor situations where they get clumsy and bump into other people, or get loud and disturb others because they actually forget that other people exist. It's pretty common to see them do 180s in their personalities when this happens. Seras are also easily identifiable because they have some of the largest ears. This is because the heavier Saurians use the enlarged surface area of big ears to help vent off excess heat, kind of like what elephants do. This is because they might not otherwise be active enough to vent off the heat through activity, or are too unmotivated to seek shade. The rest of this is a bit of a list, but quick rundown on their unique traits. They can have helms, even though canonically they're uncommon, 2 supraorbital horns that can be back-facing, forward-facing, or standing upright. Nose horns, digi or plantigrade legs with elephant-like feet as an option. They can have beaks, cheek horns, and have a tail at an average length of 2 feet that kind of looks like a watermelon wedge. For design rules on all of these subtypes, check out the website serasthings.wixsite.com/Saurians. Parasaurian. Also known as the crested loudmouth. Paras are closely related to the parasaur. Paras are known for being very loud because, in parasaurs, this crest on their head functions as a resonating chamber that makes noises to communicate with other para. When they use this crest to make their calls intentionally, it sounds similar to an elk's call, but they don't always have full control of them and might honk by laughing, crying, or out of excitement. When done by accident, they'll make a sound varying by the individual making it, sounding like chirps to quacks to bellows. You can also witness them using their massive honkers for communication when they're with their herd. Their crest can vary in a few ways: clubs, sharp, plain, and frilled. Clubs are an adaptation used by parasaurs to bang on tall trees to make loose fruit and vegetation fall down. Sharp ones are pointed to harm predators that might leap on them from behind, and frilled crests can amplify and warble the sound of the crest. Among their other adaptations is their ears. Although they're faster than Sera, they still need to offset a lot of heat by moving quickly and have large pointy ears too. But rather than being large and fanned out, they sit upright or slicked back with the head. They'll perk their ears up to hear predators, which doesn't serve much of a purpose nowadays. But instead, these large ears are good for hearing the range of tones and voices and calls, making them incredibly empathetic. Para personalities tend to vary the most. Some are embarrassed by their noises, and some take pride in how loud they can get because the louder they are, the safer the herd is. Their personalities commonly run the gamut, but their weirdest trait by far is their tendency to run on all fours. This is weird because after a certain age, they grow out of the need to use all fours and are actually slower when running this way. They tend to be sensitive about being made fun of for this, because they don't do it on purpose, it's just an instinct. A behavior left over from their ancestors, with baby para even doing it by default and having to unlearn this behavior and transition to bipedal movement later. Their unique traits are large crests, and they can be frilled, clubbed, normal, or spiked, back ridges with thin frill-like ridges that go down the spine, long tails that can drag, and unique thin, round legs that are stilt-like as an option. You can of course do digi or planty. Carnosaurian. Also known as the gluttonous picky eaters. They are currently the only Saurian based on carnivores. The Carno are omnivore, but greatly prefer the taste of meat, and they aren't picky about what kind of meat or even whether it's cooked. Unfortunately, they evolved to be unable to process many meats, especially raw meats. If for some reason a Carno loses access to a certain meat, they may develop an intolerance to it, similar to how humans can develop lactose intolerance should they stop consuming milk after a long time. Like a lactose intolerant person and ice cream, they'll still try to consume it. It's not all bad, as they're more than capable of eating fruits, nuts, veggies, and insects, but aside from fruits and nuts, they don't often like those other flavors. If something tastes too earthy, they'll gag. Same if it smells too earthy, and they have sensitive noses. Some even joke that they can smell what you're thinking, and this isn't that much of an exaggeration. Paired with their very perceptive eyes, they can read body language and smell differences in hormones and sweat. Despite being evolved from a predatory species, they get along very well with the other Saurians, who at one point may have been their next meal. Well, they get along with others as long as they're not between the Carno and meat. The only Saurian they don't get along with well is other Carnos, because of their naturally solitary personalities and instincts. They're very friendly and try their best to suppress their voracious appetites when in the company of others, just to be polite. Carnos that prove successful at fighting their instincts may find themselves to be incredible cooks. Normally they eat too fast to appreciate the diversity of flavors, but when they slow down and savor their food, they realize just how good everything tastes. Among their adaptations is a shorter snout with larger teeth and claws. The shorter snout was developed because they no longer hunt for food, so they don't need big gnashing jaws to catch running prey, and they don't need the long snouts to dig into prey better. Since they cook their food, usually, most of the time, they've developed shorter mouths with bigger noses to look more friendly and cute. Cooperation is also an unlikely adaptation. Carnosauria typically hunt alone, but as they evolved, the benefits of working with other species and living in groups proved more useful. They can still roar, but save it only for arguing with other Carnos and scaring away predators. Many Saurian credit them with the Saurians' early survival. When Carno encounter each other, they'll acknowledge each other first so that they're both aware of each other and then try their best to keep their distance from each other. With mating pairs, they'll acknowledge, get close, and headbutt. This is effectively them flirting. If they both like the headbutt, they'll date. Most Carnos who make it this far end up being together for life. If they don't get along, they'll roar until they separate. Carnos aren't violent and will never fight another Saurian, especially other Carno. This roar is just them politely asking for other Saurian to respect their personal space. Carnos are perfectly capable of getting along as long as they stay several feet apart from each other. Unique traits include short snouts, rounded heads, fanged teeth, 6 canines, 4 up top and 2 down low. Some are bearded like bearded dragons, horns on the brow, digi or plantigrade legs, clawed toes and fingers, spikes down the back, small bear-like ears, and very short tails. Stegosoran. The big friendly giants. The Stegosoran ancestors are, you guessed it, Stegosauruses. Stegos are, on average, taller than other Saurians, ranging from 4'5" to 5'5", which might not seem like much when compared to most humanoids, but trust me, they're the tall ones. Stegos are also the slowest moving, the most patient, tend to be the kindest, and are quick to make friends. Unlike the Sera, they're much more solitary. They love being around others, but they're just as content living alone or staying in their room all day. Where Sera are very quick to make multiple friends and cycle through them quickly, Stegos tend to keep a smaller, more tight-knit friend circle, and will keep them for life. Like most Saurian, they're omnivorous, but fruits and veggies taste best to them, so many Stegos will practice a frugivore lifestyle. For adaptations, Stegos have developed softer spines like a rubbery or silicone feel. These spines can bend and move out of the way. This is because when Stegosauruses were alive, breeding was difficult due to their spines. Males were just as likely to hurt themselves in the process because of their mate spines. There are a lot of theories as to how Stegosauruses got around the spine mating conundrum. One was mating lakes where Stegos would use the water to help with a more comfy breeding process, or males just accepted their fate, took the L with the W. But Stegosaurians evolved softened spines that can be hardened by contracting muscles. If their spines stayed hard all the time, it'd be possible that a Stego who falls on their back would not be getting up. Stego ears happen to be the largest of their species because of their large stature. Like other Saurian, their ears are used to dissipate excess heat by flapping their ears. When cold, however, they raise their ears like sails to catch sunlight and build up their temperature. Because of this adaptation and the Stego's efficiency with energy generation and conservation, you're likely to see them venturing further north than their peers. Unique traits include very short to very long tails, soft pliable spines down the back and tail, shaped spines, tails can grow spikes and look club-like, digi or plantigrade legs, and can also have elephant-like feet. Cross Saurian and High Saurian. You thought I was going to be on the other side of the screen this time, didn't you? Well, I'm not. I gotcha. Warning on this one going forward. Cross Saurian and High Saurian are in the works and are currently limited to only adopts made by Sera and a select few approved artists found only in the Saurian Discord group. These characters are also tied to a master list to ensure ownership is correctly attributed to the owner and artist, and the restriction on creation is only to ensure they retain their identity and not as a form of exclusion, or cool kids club. If anyone could make one, they would quickly lose their identity and would be unrecognizable as Saurian. With that out of the way, Saurians can have children with other Saurians regardless of their subspecies and with various other furry species. Saurians live on an alternate Earth called Terra. That's a general alternate universe that my species inhabit because I'm too lazy to come up with an actual universe. But furries and humans live there too. Saurian can also breed with other furry species that aren't Saurian or even reptilian. Cross Saurian is the name adopted for Saurian who are the children of two Saurian parents that are of different subtypes. Crosses don't typically specify what kind of Saurian they are, as they may identify with both parents, and Saurians have been together for so long that every Saurian has some other subtype's DNA in them somewhere down the line. Saurian who breed with other species will also inherit traits from their non-Saurian parent, but are unlikely to develop new traits not found in their parents. These Saurians are hybrids and prefer to be called High Saurian. But regardless of parentage, all Saurian are Saurian. Reproduction and gender. Warning for this section. I do discuss reproduction and giblies here. The clean version is Saurian have 3 sexes, male, female, and Zale. Male and female can breed with each other, and Zale can breed with any sex, including other Zale. Birthing Saurian can have live births or lay eggs, and pronouns are by the individual, and AMAB and AFAB individuals can transition. Saurian are also primarily pansexual, about 50% of them. That's it. Now skip ahead to this time if you don't want to hear the dirtier details, or if you're a minor. Saurian are capable of breeding with most species and having children with them. This is because of their naturally adaptive biology. In order to breed with other Saurian of different subspecies, they had to adapt, and this has made their genes open source, for lack of a better word. Male Saurians look like most males of other species, and females do as well. Male Saurians are usually smaller chested, but are capable of growing breasts and have male typical giblies. Saurian can transition just like humans, and may not perfectly fit into the social and cultural molds of male and female as dictated by other societies. Female Saurian tend to have smaller breasts than mammalian humanoids, but can have larger ones with hormone treatments, but most are fine with having small to medium-sized chests, and capable of both egg-laying and live birth, but do not have a cloaca. So you can guess what their giblies are. But there is a third sex, unique among Saurian, referred to as Zale. Zale are like clownfish and capable of adapting their hookups according to the needs of their group. Zale are capable of reproduction with both male, female, and Zale partners, and will change their biology to adapt to the need, but this process can take months, but can be accelerated through hormone treatment. In the culture, Saurians don't care about sex, and don't have a concept of gender on the island. The ones living among other species will choose to identify as the gender they feel best represents their identity. This means that Saurians are more likely to be trans, at least socially and culturally, with many identifying as non-binary or agender. Most Saurians are pansexual, with about 50% being pansexual but don't have the word for it. Instead, Saurian will say which sex they prefer, or in the case of pan ones, they will just say, I like who I like. There are Saurians with preferences, but with the existence of a third sex, they'll usually go by gender identity. Should a pair or polycule be incapable of reproduction, they'll ask a friend to play surrogate or give them an egg. Polycules are pretty common among Saurians because most subtypes of Saurian are happiest when they're in groups. Saurian females and Zales, as previously stated, are both capable of live birth and egg reproduction. Live birth is achieved by not laying the egg, or it being inseminated before being laid. The egg will stay in the womb and continue to develop as the baby grows. As the baby grows, the eggshell softens and thins. Then live birth proceeds similar to how it would with mammals. Saurian will choose whether they want to give birth or lay an egg, as they have benefits to both methods. Live pregnancies last about 6 months and result in one Saurian being born, with twins being incredibly rare. Live birth Saurian will need to be cared for by their parents longer. Birthing Saurian may prefer a live birth if they're moving around a lot or wish to care for the baby long term, or want to bond further with their child. Saurian who prefer egg laying are likely doing it as a surrogate or enjoy the independence of egg-born Saurians. Children from eggs require less nutrients and can walk around sooner since the nutrients come entirely from the egg and not from what the parent ingests, resulting in more nutrients nutritionally complete development. Eggs are also more likely to have twins, but take longer to develop and are best for parents who don't plan to move around a lot. Egg birth takes about 9 months, but allows the parents to skip annoying things like caring for a defenseless baby. Baby Saurian. Saurians who are born via live birth are called pups, and egg-laying babies are called skips. Pups, when born, are nearly blind and very similar to human babies, having almost no motor skills, no object permanence, and are incredibly reliant on their parents. Parents with breasts can breastfeed the pups, but the majority will choose to feed them pureed foods like mashed meat, veggies, and fruits. Pups aren't born with teeth, but can fully ingest these meals. Skips, on the other hand, are able to walk clumsily from hatching and can chew their own food, but it's recommended parents give them diced or cubed whole foods. Their stomachs aren't fully developed, and eating processed or high-sugar foods will upset their tummies. After this point, they develop similarly. 1-year-old skips and pups can walk and talk like a human 3-year-old, but still lack most motor skills. But at this point, they're much easier to care for, as they can be fully bipedal unless they're Parasaurian. Your baby para will need at least another year before they can walk upright. Skip horns will start to grow from nubs to their first set of horns now, whereas pups will only start growing in their nubs. Skips start with small horns to help break their shell, but at this point your skips and pups will be indistinguishable save for their horns. Pups will take a while longer before they'll feel comfortable being alone. Their dependency period has left them reliant on their parents' constant presence. But most are okay as long as they can hear your voice, so you might need that baby monitor for a little while longer. At this point you might notice that their eyes, ears, heads, and feet are huge. Don't worry, they'll grow into them. They kind of look like chibi versions of adults. This cute appearance is supposed to trigger an emotional response in nearby Saurian and trigger their parental instincts. If a baby is lost, another Saurian will find it hard to ignore them and will immediately sit next to them and watch them until a parent is found. From this point on, their growth will mimic humans and will reach adulthood at 18. When they become adults, the only way to know if one is a pup or a skip is based on their body types, height, and what their parents call them. When it comes to your parents, you're always their baby. Isle of Giants. The Isle of Giants is the home of the Saurian. It's an ever-shrinking island that was originally far off the coast of Pangaea. Once Pangaea separated into the continents and land masses, the isle ended up being relocated to what is now the Pacific Ocean. There, the island remained largely untouched, except for the occasional shipwreck and lost cargo. There, Saurians lived and grew until it was time for them to leave due to the shrinking landmass. The remaining Saurians staying on the island are working on alternatives to save their island and maybe bring it back to how it was before the ocean claimed it. The majority of Saurian who left were civilians, and the remaining were mostly scientists of all sorts and subtypes that would continue living on the island longer than most. Species like the Pterosaurian, who need less land and could live in the trees, and Amphibious Saurian that could live in shallow waters. There's even been talk of Aquatic Saurian, who are assisting scientists with raising the land. There are several plans being worked on to fix the situation they're in. Some are trying to develop a way to free the island so it can freely float. The Terra are working with scientists to create a flying city, while they figure out how to make the mainland float again. Others are working on making artificial lands, but only time will tell when or if their home will float again. If that day comes, all Saurian, regardless of subtype or hybridization, will be welcomed home if they want it. And with that, we're done. If you're interested in my species, you can check out the website, serasthings.wixsite.com/Saurians, or join the Discord. I super recommend the Discord because I do contests, and you can find adopts for the crossbred Saurians there too. We already had 2 contests, a logo contest and a selfie contest, and next is a fashion show where participants will design what clothes Saurian typically wear. If you liked this video, make sure to leave a like, comment a dino emoji, and definitely check out the pre-order for my keychain. You can also help the channel by leaving me a super thanks. There's a possibility that this video might get demonetized because of the reproduction section, so super thanks can super help with some of what I'll lose. Thank you everybody for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye. Thanks to all my patrons. They help keep my family of 20 dinosaurs warm and fed. If you want to help out, you can join at patreon.com/serasthings. So thanks again to Azaru, Linky, Ninjasun, Colorado Blue, Ceres, Vaderson, Creeper Kitty, Sly, Moonman, Cryptid Artha, Korth, The Magic Wolf, Bait, Malding Brick, and new subs, Coffee Table Studios, and Mystic Mitsuki. By joining the Patreon, you can get early access to all of my videos up to a week early, and even see some stuff that I've got coming up that I can't post on YouTube just because it's, you know, not YouTube friendly, so there'll soon be an entire original species video that's only going to be available to that Patreon. So thanks again for watching. I'll see you all later. Bye.